A recent Kenyan study has shown that having a big dick does not equal keeping your chick. Now, this survey involved 500 couples and 12 focus groups. The wives were married to fishermen, and each of the fishermen were told to measure their penis, and the results of their penis size was compared to whether or not their wife would remain faithful to them. And the study is shocking. It turns out that the larger your penis is, the more likely your wife is going to cheat on you. Now, there were other factors involved in this story. For instance, high levels of domestic violence led to cheating, denial of preferred sexual positions led to cheating, and general repression by the husband, like you repressing your wife, leads to cheating, according to this study. One of the things that they did not control for, unfortunately, is that these men were all fishermen and therefore smelly, so that also might have led to cheating, but we don't know about that. So I wanted to throw this story over to our panel and ask them what they think about small penises, and also ask them if their girlfriends and wives are faithful to them, because that would indicate a lot about you.
Well, first of all, we all know that Sean's never been cheated on in his life, so the viewers can make their assumptions about that.
That is a fact.
That is okay, speak yourself then. But secondly, getting to the actual study, the men were self-reporting the size, the size of their penis. So any man that's reporting on his own size, they're gonna add at least 2 or 3 inches. At least for the most part. And whilst if you make that assumption, then you'd assume everyone is going to be bragging, so that shouldn't affect the overall statistics too much in terms of kind of people with a larger penis cheating more. I don't think it's necessarily the most scientific study, and honestly, I wouldn't read too much into it.
Yeah, I'm kind of going to go with Steven about this. I mean, this study, I'm just going to have to say this. Can you believe it? Because I sure don't. Now, what was interesting is some of the other controlling factors that they said. That domestic violence has a big role in whether your spouse will cheat on you. Well, no shit. If you beat up your wife, you would expect them to want to get some elsewhere because you're beating your fucking wife, you dumb ass. Some of these controlling factors are no shit, duh. What does it have to do at all with the size of their penis? It makes absolutely no sense. This is one of the most non-scientific, supposedly scientific studies I've probably seen.
I actually want to jump in for one quick second. One of the things this study proved, or which should be obvious, and a lot of people in America don't know this because we don't have very good sex education in this country, is that there are different sizes of vaginas. So sometimes it doesn't really work out to have a big, gigantic jump.
How do you know that?
Science. It was in the study if you guys read the article and did the research. But yeah, I found the story interesting on that level, that there's just information that most Americans don't even think about. Like, female sex organs come in different sizes. Jordan, any thoughts?
Yeah, I would just like to denounce and reject Steven from a couple segments ago for threatening to slap a woman and say that no one on TYT Community endorses that sort of behavior, which apparently leads to cheating.
Domestic violence and general repression of your wife and not treating your wife well also led, and denial of sexual positions also led to cheating, which I think it's good to point out that most forms of repression of women tend to have the opposite effect. So, like, to all the people who think that they can control their wives and their daughters and all that and force them to do things that they don't want to do, it's not really going to work out for you. So I found that as a positive in this story.
Right. To sort of build on that, Sean, a good example we can do is talk about some Islamic countries, especially Iran. Now, there's been a lot of news stories, or there's been a few stories coming out of Iran and people talking to Iranian women and saying that because they have so much repression there, that these people will literally have giant swimming pool orgies together. It's just like a mass of just naked people in a pool. And that has to do a lot with this repression. Like, the more you try to control a woman or a populace, especially when it comes to sex, the more that they're going to want to act out. So I think that's kind of a point that I wanted to bring up to add to yours, Sean.
And another thing I wanted to point out is these men were given 15-inch rulers, and I think it would have been smart of the people conducting the study to give different sized rulers to if you were going to study how much people lie about the size of their Johnson, because I have a feeling if you get a 15-inch ruler, you're going to try and go at least more than half of that, as opposed to getting a 12-inch ruler. So like that would have been an interesting way to control the results of this experiment. And the other, that's a less substantive, more methodology point. And the other interesting thing that I took away from this is it's okay to be a member of the small boys club.
You know what? Because there are studies that say that it's not the length that really is the issue. Because most, like, this is like science. Like, most of the nerve endings in the vagina are quite near the surface, near the entrance. So it doesn't matter if you got a long Johnson or a short stubby, you know. The length doesn't really matter as much, from what I hear from some of the studies.